welcome back number 25, Kevin Stevens.
We're all gonna have choices in life. 28 years old, never did a drug in my life. Someone handed me something. So one 30-second decision I made changed the past of my life. For the next 24 years, my life went like this.
We're on TV now, so it's kind of
scary.
You know, our radio and our podcast can see on TV, which is kind of new to us. So
Painfully. Like I sat with you guys for a long time, guys, and sat there and say it's never gonna be me, you know? Now I'm sitting here talking to you guys because it was me.
I know how those people feel because I've been in those situations where I've been stuck, and when you're in it, you can't see it. It's very hard, it's a very difficult thing, addiction and substance abuse, and people need help, and we have to get out there and kind of educate people and try to do the best we can to help them. Evans, and got another great show today. We got champion swimmer Morgan Stickney, who made a trip from New Hampshire with her dad, is here today, and a couple of people from Pittsburgh, and we got a Pittsburgh one sitting right over there. So we got a great show. I'll turn it over to my buddy Andy, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, we do have a great show today, and we are thrilled to have champion swimmer Morgan Stickney in studio. But before we get to Morgan and her story, let's meet the rest of the team. Of course, joining us as always is the founder of the Abington Substance Awareness Coalition, and our special guest panel, or Alex Bezanson, and our special guest co-host Sarah Mosen from the national radio show, The Mosen Program, which is a daily radio show about living your best life, right?
It is. It's,
Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. So wonderful to be here. Kevin, always a pleasure to have some time
thanks.
with you and your family, and Kelly Wilson. And Andy, of course. We have our history, right?
We do.
I love you. But the bottom line is, yes, we are a syndicated radio show daily throughout the country, and we talk about financial literacy. You know, how can we actually look forward, moving forward, making changes in our day-to-day lives, and getting a chance to choose, you know, having that choice, knowing that you have choices in your financial future. So whether it's home ownership or eliminating debt, or simply having that financial freedom so that you can spend time with family and invest in faith, those are really primary.
And it airs on?
It does air on Salem Radio. It's the Mosen Program, daily, 11 a.m. here in Massachusetts. And obviously, you can go on to hashtag the Mosen Program to listen to some of the stories. One was with our great friend Kevin Stevens here as well.
And Kelly. And it also airs in Pittsburgh.
It does air in Pittsburgh. We have a show that's at noon on Saturdays, and Kelly Wilson was on air very recently. And looking forward to attending the event, Shattered, September 10th, as well as we have our Florida stations. So we do have a number of stations running.
And I think with Sarah and stuff, like, I use you guys, you know, for if you have, like, you know, a lot of us that get stuck in this addiction or stuck in this thing that we call addiction, where our credit and stuff gets bad, but I was able, for me to get a mortgage, you got to pull a lot of strings, you know. So I'm just, you know, if anybody's out there that needs thinking about getting a house or any type of assistance, they're great people, easy to talk to, and you know, I recommend you give them a call and check it out.
They do good work. They'll help you.
Yeah.
Can you give us your website?
Yes, our website is www.mmcmtg.com.
All right.
Very good.
So moving on.
Yes,
Moving on. I'm going to sound like Brian Gumbel in Real Sports. Moving on. I just read an article in Quartz.com, which is a workplace news site. And the title of the article was How to Manage Opioid Addiction in the Workplace by Ann Clark. And she was the founder and CEO of ACI Specialty Benefits. So basically what she's saying is, of the 2 million people that are suffering from opioid addiction, 1.4 million are spending time in workplaces around the country. And she believes that we have to have an effective program to provide confidential counseling sessions with a mental health professional paid for by the employer. And her thought is that the cost should not be a barrier preventing addicted people or their family members from getting the help they need. And she goes on to say that the opioid crisis in itself is real devastating, but it's a symptom of larger problems. And she says, rather than focus on a single drug, develop a plan that addresses addiction more broadly. Not only will it strike the root of the problem, but it will also create opportunities for employees suffering from alcoholism and dedicated to getting help. Okay, so my question to you guys is, from an employer's perspective, do you believe that if we can focus more on educating the employers about the financial benefits, do you think we would have a better shot of getting more participation by corporate America?
Go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of corporations are now doing this. I know the unions, Local 103, the electrical union here in Massachusetts, they have one employee that's dedicated to just this cause. That's his full-time job, is taking care of the addiction and education and helping the employees out. So I'm not sure what company she's talking about, but I think most companies in this day and age do have programs like that, and they do realize the benefit. If they have healthy workers, they're going to save money.
Right.
I think it's.
I don't think every industry, though, has embraced it, like the hospitality industry or the airline industry or the financial industry. Are they really?
Well, after talking to Paulie V, I'm sure the airline industry knows what's going on now.
I think it could help, and I think a lot of people are doing it, but I think it's still, it's a stigma thing. Like, who wants to come out and say they need help? I think with all the employees or anybody that works, usually comes into a position where you get in trouble. Something happens.
The drug test is
something happens where you have to come forward. Right. I don't think a lot of people are saying, out there who are using opiates or drinking too much, voluntarily come in and say, you know what, I need help, because they don't want to lose their job. They don't want,
right.
Usually something blows up first before this thing happens. And I think, education is always big, and it could help, people. But I think a lot of companies are looking into this more and more, like Alex said. But it's still a stigma. It's still
there's still a lot of people that are afraid to come forward, no matter what. But a lot of companies now are doing drug testing. So I know in Local 103, I bring that up only because I know the players. If they do drug testing and find out an employee is using, they get them into treatment as soon as possible.
Right.
Literally the next day.
So it's being adapted.
It is being adapted. And I think probably more of the bigger corporations it is. Smaller companies, probably under 50 employees, that's where we need to educate those employers and get them on board. I think the bigger corporation, Fortune 500 companies, the big unions are all doing this, but I think it's the smaller companies that need the education on this.
And even in sports, like in hockey, you don't get anything. Nothing happens to you. Get jammed up. Once you get jammed up, then you're in the program.
Right.
You don't come forward and say, I'm struggling. I want to jump into this program, because no one wants to really be in the program.
Right, because of the stigma.
Yeah, there is stigma. There's and the terms need to change. It's a disease. It's not, addiction becomes kind of like, oh, that means that I'm a bad person. It's not. It's a disease, and we're always in recovery. Every day is a brand new day. It gives an opportunity to choose, and people have a lot of stigma with financial issues. So if you're going to add on addiction with it, even if the corporations have the facilities where you can go in and talk, how many people actually will go in? Because we've had these, workshops.
They're still afraid they're going to lose their job or something's going to happen to them, even if the companies offer these programs.
Right.
Interesting topic.
Yes.
So we're going to take a short break, and I'm sure we'll talk about this again down the road, but we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back on Crosscheck.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boston, for Boston, we sing out round and free. For Boston, till wisdom's earth be free. For here our word are so true, and the towers on the heights reach the heavens of blue. For Boston, till the echoes ring again. For Boston, till the echoes ring again.
Welcome back to Crosscheck. My name is Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup champion, the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Stevens, ranked number 9 of all-time Pittsburgh Penguins.
Wow.
That's what I heard. But number 1 left winger of all time.
Wow.
I got that stat today.
Yeah, you're working hard. Way to work.
I like it.
And joining us at the table is our good friend, Sarah Mosen from the Mosen program and Mosen Mortgage.
Yes.
How's it? You having fun so far?
Always. Always fun with you and Kevin.
We're
Yeah,
the
even
best.
more now with Morgan, I think.
Yeah.
I know. She's nice. She's nice.
She is.
All right. So we're thrilled to have our first in-studio guest today. We have elite swimmer Morgan Stickney, who is with us today, direct from New Hampshire, with her dad, Tony. They came down. Morgan was ranked #1 in New England for several years in the mile and 1,000 meters. However, an injury in her foot that never healed after many years required her to have her foot amputated. And she went through a number of surgeries, including an innovative surgery performed at Brigham and Women's Hospital to try to help her with her prosthetics. She's been in severe pain, and she began using painkillers to help her. She is actively against painkillers, and even though needs them because of pain, she does not like how they make her feel. So she's here today to share with us her experience and is truly the epitome of powering forward in spite of the challenges she endures. How about that?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We learned about your story from the New York Times article, which was written by Dave Waldstein, whose cousin is one of our advisors. So love to learn more about your story and kind of give us a background and kind of about the injury, etc.
Yeah, so in 2012, I was going to morning practice, and my foot started hurting as I was walking. And then it just got worse as I went through practice, so we scheduled an appointment with a doctor. And they said I had something called sesamoiditis, which is inflammation of this really small bone of the sesamoid. And we spent a year or two just trying different treatments without doing surgery, and eventually we had to remove that bone. And I was pain-free for about 6 months, and after that, they figured out my other sesamoid shattered. And so they took that bone out, and it's never really been done in an individual before getting both of the sesamoids removed. But we said, let's go for it. And then after that, the pain still didn't get better. So we tried 5 surgeries in one the summer of 2017, and that surgery failed, and I got a major staph infection in my leg. And at this point, I was already on opioids for about a year or two and trying to go through college on them. And then after I got my infection, I just decided that it was enough. I was in so much pain. The painkillers weren't enough. I had to take so many, more than I was even prescribed, and I got scared of overdosing. And so they electively amputated my leg below the knee. And come to find out now, a little over a year later, I actually have a vascular disease. So I might
On
have
the in the other leg.
technically, it was in both of my legs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kev?
Yeah, so what I'm interested, how did you first find out, like, you had the injury? Was it like all of a sudden it just started bothering your foot, or was it from swimming, or was it just something that was going to happen, you think, anyways? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just suddenly happened, and then it just kind of started to spiral downhill pretty quick.
Yeah, so you've been through a lot. So you said you were in college when you kind of were on the. We talk about opiates and addiction here, but it's what was the big factor for you with the opiates? What obviously you took a lot of them because you were in a lot of pain, and you obviously couldn't take enough, probably, right?
Yeah. I remember actually, it's in the New York Times article where I was taking so many oxys that I went into a chem exam and I was so high that I couldn't even think of everything I studied, and I spent over 80 hours studying for that exam. And so I literally wrote on the exam, I'm too high to take this right now. And thankfully my teacher knew that I was getting an amputation, so she felt bad. But
yeah, it's not an easy, that's injuries. We take these things because you get hurt. Then that's what you're supposed to take them for. I took them a lot. I took it for all the wrong reasons. But I wasn't hurt. I just took them. But they're used for injuries. But there comes a point where it gets too much also too, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you still are swimming, or you haven't been in the pool since June,
Yes.
right? And I guess when we talked by phone, you mentioned that you were actually in Colorado Springs.
Yes, I was living at the Olympic Training Center. So I lived there for about 8 months as I was training for Tokyo 2020. And unfortunately, then I hurt my right leg. I fractured a few bones, and now we're trying to save that leg as well.
You were also saying a little bit about the the other options they had there with the yoga and the mindfulness,
Yeah.
right? So that kind of helped a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely mindfulness. There's an app called I think it's Headspace, and they have different things that you can do to try to help meditation and just mindfulness training and whatnot.
It's important because sometimes even having some of those non-medication tools can help a little bit, because it's difficult, because you were saying also that you were up to almost 5 pills a day. Is that what was happening for the
Yeah,
pain?
I mean, I could take up to 12 oxy, so I'll take up to 5 at once.
Right.
So it's definitely, I noticed that nighttime's the hardest because you don't have something to distract yourself. And so you're just laying there and then you're in pain and then you're just like, well, why not just take another pill? And then you wait 30 minutes and you're like, why not another pill? Why not another?
And your dad was saying also, because you're very strong, Morgan, you do. You have a very strong spirit about getting off of the opiates and, just training.
Yeah.
Because I can see it in your face. You have that, and it's really impressive, that strength and the support also that you have from your dad and your family.
Yeah, thank you.
So what's your day like today? Like more, what do you guys do? And what's your daily, day? Like how do you guys deal with this? So do you have to go into Boston a lot? Do you have to see a lot of doctors still, or?
Yeah, we go down to Boston at least once a week. Typically, it's 3 times a week to see surgeons at Brigham and Women's. And I bring my opioids with me every time, and I pop them when I need them. And I don't typically sleep at night because I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
But it seems like you have maintained such a positive attitude in spite of all that you have going on. How are you dealing with this?
I definitely have my moments when I'm by myself. My dad knows that I don't like to show my emotions. So, definitely when I'm by myself, I shed those tears when I need to. And, but my dad and I always talk, and we're always like, there's this person, we'll see something in the news and we'll be like, this person just went through something, and it's like, I'm going through nothing compared to them. So for me to lose 2 legs in the grand scheme of things really is nothing when you look at some other people's lives.
That's unbelievable.
I know.
No, it's
Remarkable.
it's great that you can look at it like a lot of people couldn't be that strong, couldn't look at it that way, but it's a great way to look at things. It's a tough way to look at it. I don't know if Andy could do it. I don't think he
No,
could.
well, that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Like it really gives you perspective, right? Like I'm going to the dentist
Yeah.
and I'm really upset about having to get a tooth pulled, right? Because it's in my world. But then you have to push back and get perspective. And you're like, the things that you've endured. And then, like you said, there may be somebody else out there who's enduring more
Yeah.
than you to maintain that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, so then my other question is that as far as swimming goes, so what is your hope? Because we talked about that you're still hoping to compete.
Yeah. So obviously, if I lose my leg, it probably won't be until later in the fall. And so going to Tokyo 2020 is kind of a long shot at that point, with being out of the pool and not training much. So my hope is to be able to go to the 2024 games and move back to the training center and also finish college. So yeah,
And what are you majoring in college?
I'm a bio major.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
No. I'm
So-
inspired, totally inspired. I think she should do a movie. I was saying to you earlier, I think that it's important for people to know what is happening, because then sometimes people feel very alone. They think that they're the only ones going through stuff, but you're an inspiration. You're just moving forward,
Thank you.
which is important.
So I guess my other question to you is, what can you offer to people out there who may be struggling? What kind of hope or encouragement that you
Yeah.
might be able? I don't know if that's a weird question, but
No, when you're on opioids, I call it like you're in this haze, and you're not thinking properly, and it really is a struggle to get through every single day. And for me, with not knowing I didn't have a vascular disease, I kept saying to my parents, there was no hope in sight that I would ever walk again and that I would ever be out of pain. And so, I think really it's just about getting help. I mean, whether it's you have a medical issue or you have an addiction. Like, it really is about getting help, and that's so challenging for so many people, and it's such a hard thing to do because it's like people put this stigma on you. So it's like if you go around and you say you're on opioids, like when I was at the training center and people knew, like, they treated me differently because they're like, oh, she's just doing opioids to do them. But it's like people don't understand.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're a power example. Just you really don't have to tell anybody anything. What you've gone through and what you're going through, and try to get to the other side. But opiates are part of life. They're used in the right way. Like you're using these in the right way. That's what these things are made for. For pain and for people that are in pain, and that's the way they're supposed to be used. But it's amazing how far you said this happened in 2012.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how the attitude you can keep and the positivity you keep through the whole thing. Because I think that's the biggest thing for all of us. Like for you or for me, for anybody. Like I was stuck in addiction for a long time. Is to get through it in the positive part. Your injuries that you have. It's so important that you keep that positive attitude, because where else can we go, right?
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done. Like I can't speak for you. You've gone through a lot more than I've ever gone through, and you seem to be coming on the other side, which is the most important thing. You're a power example to me. I know that.
Support network. I'm assuming you have a group of friends or a lot of good people around you.
Yeah. Honestly, when I lost my first leg, there was a huge group of amputees that reached out to me. And now that I'm going into becoming a bilateral, there's a whole nother different ballgame of people that have been brought into my life. And one person in particular, his name's Scott Rigsby, and he's a bilateral below knee amputee, and he was the first bilateral amputee to finish an Ironman. And he actually had an opioid addiction as well. And so someone like that in my life has just really been really helpful and beneficial, and being able to provide me with guidance on what to do and whatnot. So people like that have definitely helped me get through like the hard times.
Okay, and then as far as your teammates, do you still kind of, or from past swimming teams, you still stay?
Yeah, so my teammates and I stay in contact, and my coach out at the training center, we text about every single week to keep them updated on what's happening and whatnot. It's hard for all of us. When I went to my first para meet, the director, Queenie, came up to me, and, she was so excited about how fast I was at my first meet. People don't normally go into para and then they just excel, because these people normally are born with disabilities and don't acquire them later on in life. And so for someone that was an elite swimmer and then, went into para, it's kind of a different ballgame.
And when you get down, if there's times that you get down in the dumps, because we all do.
We all
Yeah.
do.
Right?
We all do.
Except Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I have friends that I'll reach out to, and my faith is something that's really gotten me through. And, it's just hoping that things get better. I try to listen to music to help me on really hard days. And, one of the biggest struggles was when I was on a ton of opioids. I'm finally slowly trying to wean off of them, because I couldn't even express my emotions. I'd be in my room at night and I needed to sob so bad because of everything I was going through, but the opioids just made me like emotionless. Like I had no emotions at all.
Yeah, that's what pretty much happens, right? You take so much medication that you can't feel anything really. You don't sad, glad, happy. You can't feel anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're just here. And it's but you're doing what you can do, and you want to you're doing the best that you can do. That's what you have to do right now. And it's like we all appreciate you're not taking these pills because you have to take them. I took a lot of pills when I didn't have to take them. That was a problem.
Well, you hate them. That's what
I
you
do.
said.
Yeah, you don't like the way it feels, right?
No, yeah.
How do you train? Like, you're a super athlete, so what is it that happens when you're ready to compete? How do you prepare for something like a swimming competition, or you're competing?
Well, you can't compete on opioids is the first thing.
Right.
So when I wasn't on opioids and competing, it's kind of just like any other athlete. Like, even though I'm missing a limb, like, you train just as hard as anyone else. And
Sure. You're a super athlete. You're fast. So that's why I'm asking. I want to know. I can barely swim. So
yeah.
what do you think? Like, do you do like something like 24 hours? What's your mindset in order to?
Honestly, it's just having fun, like I always tell people like my happy place is being in the pool. And
Yeah.
so like if I could be anywhere, any time of day, it would be the pool.
When you guys are training, like, what do you guys do? Like, when you're at full steam in the pool, like, daily, how do you guys train?
Yeah, we do doubles. So we do 2-hour practices twice a day. And, I'm kind of like this freak is what a lot of people call me because I like distance. And so like I think it's fun to go race a mile.
Oh, yeah?
So
She's like Becca, like Becca Peasy. Right? That's crazy though. But so in big picture, okay. So now, so here's my other question. When we were talking, you had mentioned that a lot of the media that you've talked to. So we're honored to have you. But a lot of the media that you've dealt with, they've distorted things.
yeah, sometimes. There was one thing that the New York Times article definitely distorted, and it was something that I didn't say, but my dad said, and they said that I said it. So that was a little bit upsetting, but, in the grand scheme of things, it's getting my story out there to help other people. So if something's a little twisted and it's not extremely dramatic that only like my family would know, it's not really a big deal in our eyes because we're doing all of this to help others.
Okay. And would you say that, okay, so now big picture, what do you see for you? I'm going to ask like an interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I'd like to go to the 2024 Paralympic Games, and then I'd like to go on to medical school to be able to help other people.
Okay. So like the vascular thing, that, your vascular disease is something that, do you plan on talking about that as well to other people out there at some point?
Yeah, it's right now it's an undiagnosed disease. I have one of the best cardio doctors here in the world, and she's never even seen something like it. And so it is something so rare that they don't even have a name for it yet. And, with the amount of doctors I've seen about 200 doctors.
Have you really?
And, we've gone all over the country to see doctors. And there's been some really horrible doctors that I've seen. And so that's kind of one of the things that's fueling me to go into the field because people need better doctors that are there for them.
Is it genetic or do they know yet?
They don't think it's genetic because no one in my family obviously has had this issue.
Okay.
Dad said they might have found something that's positive in the last week or so.
Yeah, I had an angiogram, which is where they go into your arteries, and they basically saw that from mid-calf down, I basically have no blood flow to my foot. I just have enough to keep the bones so they're not turning completely necrotic.
That's amazing. Now, if somebody wanted to reach out to you,
Yeah.
would that be okay if they're, like, could you give your information out there?
Yeah.
Or no, not to put you on the spot, but there might be people out there who's like, oh, she's really inspirational to me. I would love to reach out.
Yeah, you could look me up on Facebook. It's Morgan Stickney, and I also have an Instagram. It's Morgan Stickney.
Okay. So, did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
You enjoyed coming?
Yeah, she did a good job.
Awesome
Great
job. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Thanks
coming
for
on.
having me.
Yeah.
And Morgan Stickney, we appreciate it, and we'll be right back on Crosscheck.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boston, for Boston, we sing out round and free. For Boston, till wisdom's earthly fame. For here our word hearts are true, and the towers on the heights reach the heavens are blue. For Boston, till the echoes ring again. For Boston, till the echoes ring again.
Welcome back to Crosscheck. I'm Andy Bernstein here with two-time Stanley Cup winner, the great Kevin Stevens.
The best looking guy in the NHL.
In NHL. How many years ago was that?
30.
Well, now we're back down to 30. It was 165, but now we're down to 30.
35.
35. Alex Bezanson.
The best looking guy in Abington.
Yes.
Still the people's champion.
There you
Yeah.
go.
No, that's
Thank you.
actually
Thank
Paulie. Paulie's the people's
Right.
champion.
Yeah.
Alex has some, and then we're going to talk to you too, but Alex has some housekeeping.
Yeah, I
notes.
just want to remind everybody about Kevin's U.S. premiere of the movie Shattered.
Shattered.
which is September 10th, and it's in Arlington. Tickets are available. You can get tickets at powerforward25.com. And if you call the studio here at WATD, I'm sure they'll put you in touch with us and we can get you tickets. As a matter of fact, as it gets closer, we'll give a couple of tickets away on a future show.
Oh,
here
we
at
will?
WATD. We will.
Okay.
I made that decision.
Okay.
All right.
All right, cool. And what else we got?
What else we got? Just glad to be here at WATD.
How about Morgan, huh?
Morgan was great. Great.
She was awesome.
Awesome.
She was.
I'm sure we'll have her back.
She's fantastic. Very inspirational.
Right.
Right, Morgan? Anyway,
Turn her into a Pittsburgh fan soon.
I know, right?
No,
We
that
got
won't
all the
happen.
guys here, right?
We won't have her back then.
You know what? Enough of you. All right. But speaking of Pittsburgh,
Yes.
we have one of Pittsburgh's finest here, the great
Thank
Sarah Mosen.
I'm going to have to get a Pittsburgh jersey.
Yeah.
You do.
You are.
I'll bring
get
you
some.
one next time.
I got an
Okay.
Antonio Brown one. I'm happy to give you.
I don't want that one.
No.
No, AB. Well, because you're AB, right?
No, I'm going to wear a Kevin Stevens
Yeah,
jersey.
I would
on
wear
the
that
show.
any day. Any day.
KS25 Enterprises.
Very, very valuable jersey.
I know. He's a great
House
man.
down.
All right. So joining us at the table is Sarah Mosen from the Mosen program, Mosen Mortgage.
Yes.
You're not your traditional mortgage person.
We're not. We're really all about people. you
So
know?
tell us about what you do as an organization, you and your brother Zaf. How do you guys do more about holistic and life stuff?
We do. I mean, we're really based on the human connection. I think that has changed dramatically over the years. There's really no human contact when you're looking at questions that are related to finances. And people often end up getting a lot of no's in life. It's kind of hard when maybe your credit score is under 600 or maybe even your credit score is 800, but you're not getting the best interest rate. So whether it's a home or you're refinancing to eliminate debt, one of the key parts that we have noticed really is that there's no support system for people who have questions and need to move forward in purchasing a home or getting out of debt. And we've worked with so many of our friends who've come to us, and maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year that they may be able to buy a home. But we work directly with the credit bureaus. So, usually people say, oh, well, you'll have to pay to get the information on what needs to happen to raise your credit score. We get that information for free. So we offer a lot of free services, and we also support a lot of, life-changing nonprofits.
Okay. Kev worked with you.
Yeah,
right?
I did. And I think with Sarah and Zaf, I think the most important thing, like you said, even like there's a stigma like about having bad credit. Like,
Yes.
It's like no one wants to call up and say, you know what, can I get a mortgage? I'm not sure if I can. I'm not sure if I can.
Right.
And that's sometimes, that's the hardest thing is the first step there too, which is like kind of like addiction type of thing, is making that first call, that first step, and then to get the ball rolling, right? And then you guys can take it over. You guys pretty much did everything for me. I just had to kind of follow a few rules, but they'll help you with everything you need to know, which is nice because I need to know a lot.
I think you did. I think you have an open heart, Kevin, which is really important. So one of the key parts is it's not about money. It's just choices, right?
Yeah.
And what we just did was we were able to provide the tools. We work with 50 banks, wholesale banks. And it's not about just the credit score. It's, for example, there are limitations in certain states where you may want to buy an investment property, let's say, and someone at a retail bank may just say that the rate is 6% because it's a $1 million property. Well, we can offer maybe a 3% rate. That changes how much you save. But this is America. 80% of us don't have savings. We're living paycheck to paycheck, and many are looking to buy a home. That's their dream. But they don't have 20% down. You can do a 3.5%, which can be gifted through a relative. So if someone's getting married, rather than buying them gifts, you could pitch in with funds for a home purchase, that gifted amount from a relative, the in-laws, for example. But my favorite word is hope, because if we give up hope, then we are not going to continue down that path. So for us as a family-owned business, we're built on hope and making sure that we're connected with our community. And
Give some examples of that.
I mean, we just had recently a family where the husband and wife, they came on air on our radio show, the Mosin program, and they were going to end up in a divorce situation because they weren't able to, meet the obligations for credit cards. But they had a home with a lot of equity, a lot of value in the property. And they had a few other things that were happening. They had kids going to college. They didn't have money for that. Their credit score was around 580, and they were able to take money out, go on a second honeymoon, which is really important, I think. It's not just about money. It's about relationships.
Sure.
And they had money set aside for college. Their son needed a car. And the whole dynamic of that family unit changed for the kids and for that family. So we're really all about the faith-based aspect of it, because a large part of our relationships are breaking apart because of money issues. So we can have those conversations separately, privately, and find solutions for people who are looking to get out of debt.
Correlation. I guess a correlation I would curious to know is mental health
Yes.
and finances. Is
Oh,
there a
yeah.
is there a correlation, like a pretty
100%. There is. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I think there is. It's it has to be, right? I think the mental
I
illness.
think, like you said, most people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck, including us. And I think that weighs on a lot of people, and that's what causes a lot of problems. I have some rental property, and I know my tenants are paying outrageous rents. They could pay a mortgage for what they're paying for rent in some of these places, not just mine, but everywhere. But they can't come up with the down payment. They have bad credit, or not bad, but not great credit. So how can someone like that, ever afford a house?
Well, I think what happens really is asking a question to someone who's going to provide hope and education. So someone who may be renting, for example, maybe you're looking as a landlord to sell that property. We give that information to bump up the credit score and discuss the down payment options, and that has happened. A lot of landlords actually are in a situation where they're like, well, I really don't want this property anymore, and it would be nice to have an idea of when the tenant can purchase that home. It's easier, smoother transition if they've been paying rent. And what we can do is work with them to make sure where their credit score is, tell them exactly what needs to happen to raise that score. It's a science. And that's what I love about numbers, because numbers never lie. And that will bring them up to that level. And maybe they have the credit score, but they were under the impression that they need to have 20% down, which is what most regular banks do. But we're prepared to be a part of that journey, because a lot of the folks we've done home purchases, refinances, reverses, we've done commercial properties, we keep in touch with. They text me. We've been on air for 14 years for Salem Radio at the Mosin program, and we're there. We're part of that journey. It's a human connection. It's not just an online decision where it's like, oh, well, it's no, too bad, and that's it.
Yeah, well, this one tenant that I'm thinking of, he actually paid a credit repair company several years ago, and
that'll screw you up even worse.
That
right?
will.
His credit score never went up,
Yes.
and he paid them I don't know how much money.
Right.
And there's a lot of companies out there that are advertising on TV and radio that they can fix your credit, and a lot of them are scams.
Talk about
There.
that, because
Right. It's what happens is you don't. And here's the view from when I was raised with my dad. He was always cash based, but the bottom line is that nothing, that you're going to pay for before you know the results is going to add value to your life. You need to know, based on, for us, we provide that for free, and we'll tell you. We will talk to the credit bureau directly. We're connected to them directly, and the credit report will reflect what has happened and what needs to happen. It's really basic. If you don't pay your bills on time, like the car loan, for example, if it's late 1 month, it drops your score by 80 points. If you have a mortgage, it drops it by 100 points. If now a lot of these companies that are asking for money and saying, we'll fix your credit, they'll put it in dispute, which makes it worse. And you're now paying every month for this thing that they've said they'll help with, and they haven't, and they disappear. You can't get a hold of them. So as I've said, we provide that information, and over again, you can hear basically from our testimonials from our listeners who've said, "Oh wow, we didn't know. It really is very basic. It's really easy. You don't need to pay someone to correct your scores."
Yeah, I know that for a fact too, because you guys pretty much told me exactly what I had to do for like
Right.
3 or 4 months to get my credit to where it got, and by doing that, I was able to get a loan. But it was right to the point. I just had to make sure I followed the plan. If you follow the plan, they have a plan for you, and it worked great for me.
You were at a point where you wanted a house, right? You're in recovery. You're kind of repairing.
Yep, I was repairing.
repairing. How did they like as far as the plan? I mean, was Sarah somebody who, not to make it a testimonial for you, but was she somebody who really spent time with you and kind of made you feel?
Yeah, she right the first time I kind of met her, I kind of knew that it was going to work. She told me it would work, so I kind of believed her right off the bat, which I don't know, so I just had to follow a few things. But like I said, I became good friends with her and Zaf, and it's been a great relationship. It's helped. I just had to follow a few rules, which I wasn't following many rules.
Right.
So I had to follow a few rules, and I was able to do that, and then I was able to get a house. So, but that's just the nature of the beast. There's a lot of people out there in addiction that weren't following rules for, they're in this kind of funk, and there's a way out. And I think, it all starts with that first call, right? It's just like anything, if no one wants to know about their finances when they're sinking, when they're way up, it's great.
Everybody has.
Right, facing that, confronting that credit, which is really, people want to bury their head in the sand.
They do.
And
They do.
What's the, if I can,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
the
yeah.
average credit score for an American? Do you know?
Well, it depends. Every state is different. So, what we look at largely is usually the scores are under 600 because of the fact that we're caught up in this cycle where you're at 18% rates with credit cards. So your average is maybe $20,000 in debt. You're making $900 in payments. That's not even hitting the surface of paying down that loan. And then there's a car loan and there's student loans. So largely the retail banks, and we work with them as well because they do come to us to ask for help for their clients who have scores under 600 or even under 640. But it's not only the credit score. It's like little things that you'll see like, okay, well, maybe you went on a trip and you missed a mortgage payment. And then now you want to refinance and the bank is like, no, can't. You have to have all your mortgage payments on time. So we can do 1 times 30. So once in a year, maybe you missed a mortgage payment, we can, refinance you. There are a lot of things that we do in respect to also, and I like to shop. So for me, the outlet store is the best place. So we're kind of like the outlet store. When you go and buy a pair of shoes, I love shoes, so you will buy it for maybe $40 versus $80. So the same with wholesale lenders. We have 50 banks, lower interest rate on home mortgages and on commercial properties.
Which equates to a lower payment, so people can
Yes.
afford it.
Yes,
more
it
so than-
does.
and not have as much stress in their life because they have a.
Well, they have all of this money when you refinance,
So let's talk about your radio show for a second.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you have a lot of different guests on your show.
Yes, and you're coming on too, Eddie.
Well, I am coming on.
That's a different one right there.
That's a different one.
A lot of different ones.
For sure.
I'm looking forward to it, yes.
Well, tell us about the kind of guests you have, because you really have a cadre
Yes.
of different guests.
We do. We're really big believers in wellness. So we've had Kelly Wilson, Kevin's sister, who I absolutely adore. She's amazing. She's
all right.
brilliant. Yeah,
She's all right.
And she's right there.
she is.
She's all right.
And so we really are built on wellness, and just the whole focus on financial wellness and health because they are directly connected. A lot of folks are not sleeping at night, and that is largely due to the fact of financial issues. And that creates problems with depression and relationships and mental health. So we've had we've had the president of the Pirates, Pittsburgh Pirates. We've had Glenn Meekum, who I know very well. He was one of the most famous entrepreneurs who sold his company for, I don't know, $100 million. And we've had a very dear friend of mine, David Kilgore, who I worked for briefly in Canada and was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, because it's about the human condition. That's largely what our focus is. People always say, oh, well, you have these guests. I don't know how it's connected. It's about making sure that people have hope. Financial wellness just gives people not only hope, but options.
And freedom.
Freedom. And to
Right.
reinvest in your community. You know, it's not about just, well, you see people who have been successful in life, and success means maybe for a mother having a child, you know, maybe for a family member not having to work part-time so they can spend time with their newborn. Those are the things that we look at. But community, which we all need to make sure that we invest in. It's not about just making money. It gives you access to options.
So you're mystical.
Uh,
You are.
Mystical.
She's mystical. No, but you really do take the time to talk to people. And I know, like in the mortgage industry, or there's some other industries that, you know, people have preconceived notions. This is the type of people that they are. They're mortgage people. They're about processing a loan.
Yes.
And do you have like people who repeat customers?
We have people repeating in the sense that I have this wonderful lady who came to us, and she wanted to get rid of debt, and she did, and she brought her family from another country, and they invested in that for making sure that they have better lives. And then she wanted to take more money out over the years to invest in her 401k, because that's really important. A lot of people don't realize that if you put money into a 401k, you may have a dollar for dollar match, maybe even 25 cents, and that's free money. That's money that you're not going to get taxed on. When people say, well, I don't have enough money and I can't put money away in my 401k, I always say, let's look at the numbers. Let's see where your money is going, because usually 33% of your household income is going towards credit card debt or to car payments. That's the money you want to capture. That's your money.
But I think you touched on something. I think it has to be a give and take, right?
Absolutely.
With a client that, you know, like Kevin was saying, he did the work, right?
He did the work.
Right.
He did the
You
work.
gave him, you advised him, you structured him, and he
I
took
don't
your
think I
coach.
could structure it, but I
He
think
took your coach. He took your coaching.
That's it.
He was open and ready.
Yeah,
When I
that's-
talked to Kevin the first time, I knew he was ready. And that's the thing. You know, we have to be open and ready, and he was ready. He
Right.
said,
A lot of work. I know.
Oh, I know. I know.
but
I
you
know.
got there.
What would you advise to somebody out there who may be struggling financially? Can you give us some words of hope, some words
Absolutely.
of encouragement?
I mean, I think always be curious about knowing about where you're going to go with your finances. Ask the question. I never did when I was growing up. I was very shy as a child, and I missed out, because when you're that shy, you're stuck in fear, and we all have a fear that we're looking to overcome. Usually it's finances. So ask questions, be curious, be with people that are going to support you and surround you, and know with us, everything is private. And, you know, we're grateful, Kevin, that you're open, you're brave enough to share your story, because that allows people to have that hope, that they know that they're not alone. And that's an important journey for everyone to be aware of.
It all goes back to what you always say: surround yourself with good people and
Yeah.
good things, and
Yeah.
That's
that
it.
happens.
Things happen.
Give your
Sure. So our number is 1-800-662-9550. And you can also go to our YouTube station. It's hashtag the Mosin Program, and website www.mmcmtg.com.
well, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back on Crosscheck.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boston, for Boston, we sing out round and free. For Boston, till wisdom's earthly fame. For here our word, our hearts are true, and the towers on the heights reach the heavens are blue. For Boston, till the echoes ring again. For Boston, till the echoes ring again.
Welcome back to Crosscheck. I'm Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup champion, the best-looking man in hockey,
Pride of Pembroke,
the pride of
Never
Pembroke,
get-
pride of Marshfield. now.
great American,
Never gonna give that one up.
Pittsburgh. I know. Well, the Queen she's
She's on assignment in New Jersey.
we love the Queen.
Busy girl.
She is a busy girl. But she's like, you missing me yet? I'm like,
And we said almost.
of course I am.
Nope.
Nope.
Not one bit.
I should have given her the meh. And
But she is training for recovery program that she works for.
yeah, so she'll be back at some point.
She will.
Alex Bazanson, Abington Substance Awareness Coalition, and Sarah
Correct.
Mosen, Mortgage.
Mosen Morgan.
Thank you. Long show. Great. Morgan, how about Morgan?
Morgan was
Awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Let's hear it from Morgan.
All right,
Yeah.
Morgan.
Really,
That's our
Really-
live studio audience.
really an inspiration, and her story is awesome. And so thrilled that they came down from New Hampshire to spend some time with us to talk
Yes.
about her story. Then also, Miss Mosen here.
It was, it's always a fun time with everyone here, and it was a real honor too. It was very nice to be able to spend some time as well with Kevin and with you, Andy, as well.
Well, you're a lovely person, and we really appreciate you coming on and talking about financial literacy or
Yes.
kind of credit, because it's really an important thing. As Kevin,
It does all fit into our whole theme.
Yeah, it's all about learning, right? It's all about and it's pretty much about just going out there and making that first time, making a phone call and finding out what's going on. That's the hardest thing is about, and it's important. It's important stuff. It's important people know that there's hope of all different types of things.
Right.
Addiction's a big part of it, but finances, everything's tied into you just don't go do a bunch of drugs because things are great. And you jump up and down the back
right.
road,
It's like woohoo! No, it's like
Yeah.
But in order to get your life together, there's all parts of recovery,
Yeah.
not just the physical,
right.
but mentally and financially, and getting your whole life and family back together.
Right, having that balance of like, I'm gonna go into the store, and I maybe have to get a credit card, and oh my God, if I apply, I'm gonna get turned down.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna go for a mortgage, but I'm not even gonna try because I haven't looked at my credit report in a million years.
It is. It's interesting because we all have bumps in the road, yet we try, often to hide that. But if we actually share with people that will give you the tools and the hope, and understand that you can move forward from there, because fear is a large part of what holds us back. Whatever it is, there's fear based on some of the goals that we can accomplish, based on stigmas that have been placed on us by society. And money is one. It's a big one, and so is addiction. And for myself, I look at addiction as it's a disease. It's something that you've had. It's not something that you just fell into. And there's solutions, there's tools, and there's support that you can actually get from people that love you, that are there for you, that really want you to succeed.
Yeah, well said. That's pretty much. We're lucky we had a great show with Sarah here, and Morgan obviously coming in for us, and she should be a power example for all of us, right?
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
like determination, courage, all of them. That's what it's all about, and having Morgan here has been great, and
And we'll be watching for her in the 2024 Olympics.
That's right. And if people want to reach out to us, where can they reach out to us, Kevin?
powerforward25.com. It only took me about 2 years to learn.
I know,
that
right?
website, so it's pretty.
You
it's
got
pretty
it.
Good. But yeah, it's all good. If anybody any problems, any questions, anything, reach out to us. We'll answer them, and whatever we can do to help. Right? That's why we're here.
That's it. And of course, you can also call SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Administration, which our phone number will be on the screen. There it is, 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP. Thanks to the entire crew here at Abington Cam.
And if you can't remember all those, you can just call the radio station, WATD, and they'll put you in touch with us, and we can help you. So if you need help, reach out to us. And another thing I want to mention again is September 10th, 2019 is the U.S. premiere of the movie Shattered. The story of Kevin Stevens.
Wow.
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 This is your life.
What a story.
It is. Tickets are available at Power Forward
Better have a
25,
long time. It's a long night.
It's a long journey. Walking on the side of the road.
but it's only 22 minutes long.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which is good.
That's a good thing, right? All right. That's our show for the week. We'll see you next time.